obviously was sort of problematic. Alicia's going to talk a little bit about some of the response that we've seen at Emory, and then I'm going to tie it back to what that has to do with us.
All right.
If you want to project, it's ready.
Oh.
I don't think we need it.
It's all right.
It's fine.
So obviously there are a couple of implications that arose from President Wagner's comments, and one of those things is that we have to put, you know, a couple of people, the Board of Trustees says we support President Wagner, and you know, we are for the things that he has to say, and things were taken out of context. However, you have to remember, in the context of Emory University, African American students have been allowed at the university to serve as students only for about 50 years. 1962 was the first time an African American student was able to earn a degree at Emory University. Also, take into consideration that the minutes from one of the trustee meetings, December 2nd, 1840, the college minutes read that it was resolved that 5 of the manservants hired by the trustees be employed in making rails and hauling them to the place where they be needed for repairs of the fence around the plantation. That particular plantation was at Emory University. And so Emory University is not only has a long-standing history of using African Americans as for free labor to build the campus, and on top of that, only allowed us to earn an education there a little over 50 years ago. And so when President Wagner makes statements of this caliber, there is an implication there that there is some unresolved tension here on our campus. And we have to look at how do we talk about a very touchy subject about race in our communities, in our educational communities, and how as clergy and as people of faith, how do we deal with the sensitive topic of race and equality in our communities? One of the things that disturbed me the most really wasn't even that President Wagner said that, because he probably says that in the privacy of his own home, but what disturbed me the most was that the number of eyes that saw that letter before it was published. The secretary, the communications director, the people who, in the grand scheme of things, attend our churches, shop in the same places that we shop, who saw that letter and said, sounds great, President Wagner. Stroke, stroke. And so that is what concerns me the most, is that those people who are like us, who we interact with, because we typically would never interact with President Wagner, but we would interact with his secretary. We have 1 minute left. All right, so we wrap that up by saying, what does this mean for us as clergy, theologians, community engagers? How do we deal with issues of race, gender, and orientation in a world with historical legacies are rooted in sometimes not so easy to deal with issues? That's a rhetorical question for you to take home with you. How do we become aware of the power of our words? As we can see, are unretractable. We know there were several statements that came out afterwards of apologies and things of that nature. And tying it back into our responsibility as clergy, I'm going to let Levi wrap it up with 15
30
seconds.
seconds. So I think one thing that this helps us keep in mind is that, like I said, he was trying to make a valid point. The point he was trying to make was a good one. It was completely overshadowed by what he chose to say and the way he chose to say it. So despite our best intentions, there are still many ways that we can do harm in communities. So I think that this is a reminder for us to be very cognizant about the way that we talk to people, about the way that we are aware of our own identities and the communities that we're choosing to engage, and about the ways in which our actions, despite our best intentions, might have ill effects on the people with whom we're working. So I think this is a reminder for us to be aware of ourselves as we enter these communities.
All right.